Yes, you did.
Is that good? As I said in the video, I really do believe God has a plan. And I would say since Johnny was less than a year old, we knew that there was something different, something not quite right. Why was Johnny not reaching his milestones? Why wasn't he eating? Why wasn't he speaking? Through doctor appointments after doctor appointments, from evaluations to neurologists, the word autism was being suggested. I couldn't bear the word to cross my lips. I knew in my heart it was autism, but this mom just could not say it. So at the time, I chose to say special needs. Don't ask me why it was easier, but for some reason, my heart was just able to handle it. Maybe I felt special needs was a temporary thing. My son required some special needs right now, and autism felt more permanent to me, and I just wasn't ready for anything permanent. Maybe it was because autism seemed so much more scary to me. I really didn't know what it was, and I remember going back to the movie Rain Man, as I thought that is what autism would be. 8 years ago, I felt there just wasn't anywhere to go. Or maybe it was me just not knowing how to navigate in this brand new world. You never saw a commercial on TV talking about autism, and when we went to the doctor appointments, they used so many acronyms that Grant and I would think that they were speaking a foreign language. We were so lost, we were extremely devastated, we were heartbroken, and everyone in my family but me was in denial. I understand denial, although back then it certainly wasn't helping me or Johnny out at all. I believe that denial comes from hope. We so desperately want the very best for our children that we never ever give up hope. There isn't a blood test to diagnose autism, and the CAT scan came back normal, so we continued with hope. And we excused behaviors we saw because we had hope. I saw it with Grant all the time. He would say things like, "Oh, I don't think he got enough sleep last night," or "Johnny doesn't feel well, I think he's warm." Johnny wasn't warm, and he had had plenty of sleep, but hope was excusing the behaviors away. So we had a family in denial, and a mother who was completely navigating in this new world alone, and a mom who couldn't say the word autism. Our family was so sadly broken, and I have to admit that they were the hardest, darkest days of my life. It wasn't that I loved my little boy any less. In fact, I think we couldn't have loved him any more. Watching him struggle, visiting doctor after doctor, CAT scans, evaluations, hearing tests, where Johnny needed anesthesia, and they tested his hearing with brain waves because he failed the soundproof booth tests. It was just all so much, too much for us as parents to witness. I think we held him closer and tighter every single day. But what I was going through was almost like a mourning. I was mourning all the hopes and dreams that I had envisioned for my son. At the time, I thought they were gone. Our life as a family was going to change, and it was going to be so completely different than I had envisioned. I felt I couldn't do it, that I was not up for this kind of life. I felt God was giving me way too much to handle, and in fact, I was so angry, so very angry at God, but I never stopped praying. Everything about Johnny was developmentally delayed. That was another term I could easily say in place of autism. From sitting up to crawling, walking, eating, speaking, Johnny has a condition called hypotonia, which is low muscle tone, which affects every single muscle of his body, from head to toe, from swallowing to talking to strength and walking. This past weekend, I had to search for baby pictures of Johnny for another organization, and all the pictures I found of Johnny where he was standing or walking, he was barefoot. I remember just an added shoe was too much weight for him to pick up to walk. I saw pictures of us in Disney World, and there we all are standing in front of the big, beautiful castle, and Johnny is barefoot. We must have looked like the parents of the year. And if Johnny wasn't barefoot, he was being carried on my hip, he was in a stroller, or he was on Grant's shoulders. He just didn't have the strength to take more than a few steps. Johnny's speech was pretty much non-existent, so we started teaching him some sign language. He grasped it, and it helped him through some tough and frustrating times. We started with therapy when Johnny was 3 in our home, and Johnny would either cry and scream or he would go to sleep. Back then, Johnny had an incredible defense of shutting down, and he would just go to sleep when he was overwhelmed, so Johnny slept a lot. Johnny did not like in-home therapy at all, and I finally decided to stop it. Having my child either scream or sleep for close to an hour is not what therapy is supposed to be. I remember early on doing everything the doctors told me to do. If they had asked for my arm, I would have given it. So I allowed therapists in my home week after week upsetting my son because I thought the doctors knew best. I'll never forget when I told the therapist that I decided to cancel services. One therapist told me that she thought I was making the right decision, that Johnny needed his home to be his safe place, and that he shouldn't have to work in his bedroom. She felt that Johnny would do much better going to an office outside the home for therapy. Of course, this woman was correct. I just wish she had shared that information with me weeks earlier. In-home therapy is wonderful for lots of kiddos, but autism is so different for everyone, and it just didn't work for Johnny. So it was from this experience, this very moment, that I didn't always listen to everything that the doctors told me to do, but I listened to my motherly intuition. The reality is no one knows Johnny better than me or Grant. And if we see things that are not benefiting our son, we drop it and we try something else. I remember when Johnny was being evaluated for pre-K. Grant and I were in the room during the evaluation, and there were so many things that Johnny couldn't do. He struggled with, and at times he couldn't be bothered to engage. Looking back at it now, Grant and I kind of chuckle at the things we did. I remember I sat there and I took notes on all the things that Johnny couldn't do and struggled with. And as the crazy parents that Grant and I are, we stopped at Toys R Us and the school box store on the way home. We bought all the supplies we needed, and we crammed for the test. We worked our little boy day after day until he could master his task. I remember he had to stack 5 blocks, not 4, not 6. He needed to stack 5 blocks. And we worked and worked until Johnny mastered it. Never did Johnny progress naturally. Johnny had to be taught absolutely everything he knows. We were so thrilled when Johnny mastered a task, but by the time he mastered just one, there were 5 more things that he was supposed to know how to do based on his age, so I felt we were always playing catch up. Johnny started special needs pre-K, and God knew we needed help. We certainly needed help. We had the most amazing teacher. Miss Allison was fresh out of college, and this girl had dedication, so much love for these kiddos, and tons of energy. Not only did Johnny need her in his life, but there was no question that Grant and I needed her, and maybe even a little more. This 20-something-year-old girl from Michigan was guiding us, kind of took us under her wing, and helped us through some very tough times. Johnny was learning social skills, life skills, how to put on a coat, how to interact and socialize with kiddos, how to hold a spoon, and the list goes on and on and on. And we as parents were learning how to live with autism. This young lady walked us through this world of unknown, and I will forever be grateful to her. I remember when Johnny finally ate some yogurt in school. When I picked him up, I think from the moment Miss Allison opened the door until she reached me at the sidewalk, her feet never hit the ground. Her enthusiasm and love and dedication for Johnny was overwhelming. There were so many things that she did for us. But truly, the one thing I will never forget is when I picked Johnny up from school one afternoon and he gave me a kiss for the very first time. My boy was nearly 5 years old and never had given his mother a kiss. Miss Allison, without me knowing, had worked with him to teach him how to pucker his lips and how to give his mother a kiss. As you can only imagine, I was an emotional wreck that day. We were blessed to have this young lady for 2 years of special needs pre-K, but it was time to move on to special needs kindergarten, and I was devastated to leave our pre-K teacher behind. How could we ever live without her? She had become my shoulder to cry on, someone who understood who we were and the support we needed as parents, all while teaching our son. So I prayed and I prayed, and once again my prayers were answered with another amazing teacher. Our 2 years of special needs kindergarten, we as parents grew enormously. In a time when the news was reporting abuse towards children with autism, special needs children with little to no communication skills were being left and forgotten on buses, in bus yards, Grant and I became even more protective of Johnny, if that was even possible. Johnny's teacher's warm and calming way was giving us the trust we needed to feel confident in leaving our son in her class all day. When your child cannot communicate about his day, how people are treating him, and what is happening to him, it is so very difficult to trust anyone. We never had a babysitter, and we don't have family close by to help us. Johnny never rode the bus. We definitely hold Johnny close and tight. Grant and I sometimes couldn't make the same functions at the same time. We would tag team parties. It wasn't always easy, but it is what worked for our family and what we thought was best for Johnny. And somehow we always made it work. Throughout kindergarten and Johnny's first grade years, I think I took on a whole new role with Johnny. I wanted Johnny to succeed so much that every day after school, I would have lessons plans all ready for him. I was not only his mother, but I was his teacher and his therapist. In addition to his homework, I would have work for him. I became obsessed with trying to play catch up. I would stay up all night long thinking of ways of teaching him, how to teach him the non-conventional way, a way that Johnny would learn. How could I teach Johnny to have conversation? I made puppets so I could help guide conversation between he and the puppet. I used the puppet to slow down Johnny's speech. Each movement of the hand to open puppet's mouth would be a syllable, therefore slowing down Johnny's speech. I made things, I cut, pasted, glued, all to help Johnny learn. I was living, sleeping, breathing Johnny, and looking back at it now, I know it was not healthy. Johnny did well overall in special needs kindergarten, but as our life continues, we have ups and downs, and this seems to be our consistent pattern of life, living with autism. As a family living with autism, I feel we have learned to love deeper, to believe stronger, and have learned to enjoy all the successes, no matter how small they are. We no longer sweat the small stuff, and our biggest celebrations are because of the smallest successes. We have learned to appreciate and love baby steps. As long as they are moving forward, progress is being made. So I continue to pray. I pray for strength to make it through every single day. I pray for guidance. I pray for miracles. I pray for peace. I pray for answers. And I pray for Johnny to be happy. And never in my wildest dreams did I think my prayers would be answered with a dog. I met Zena on the news one night last September. I was straightening up the family room, and I was so taken aback by the horrifying photo of her. They were looking to the public for any information on who could possibly have done this to a 4-month-old puppy. An emaciated, starved, so badly neglected and abused puppy was unresponsive, cold to the touch, and moments from death. The news said that she had a Facebook page set up for donations, and I quickly grabbed my computer and typed in the name so appropriately given to her, Xena the warrior puppy. I followed Xena from this day forward. I signed it to Facebook daily, and I checked in on her, and I prayed. Oh boy, did I pray for a miracle. A puppy who was given less than 1% chance to survive not only beat the odds, but grew into a healthy, loving pup. Proof that miracles do come true. In November, Zena was well enough to hold her first fundraiser and meet her Facebook fans. I told Grant that morning that I wanted to go, and he was hesitant because he didn't want me to fall in love with the warrior even more and have my heart completely crushed. We went, and we were there for under 5 minutes since Johnny wasn't able to handle the crowd and the new environment. But Johnny met her, and he touched her, and he loved on her. And not knowing it at the time, the Atlanta News got it all on tape. And Johnny and Zena made the news together for the very first time that evening back in November, when Zena being part of our family was only a dream and a prayer. The video footage shows a puppy engaged with others, and all of a sudden she takes off and runs to Johnny. Could it be fate? I believe in my whole heart it was that these two were destined to be together, but I just didn't know the rest of the miracles that were about to unfold. So it was after this meet and greet and fundraiser that I decided to submit adoption papers. I remember filling them out. I think it took me all weekend. I didn't just answer a question. I wrote a novel with arrows on the back of the paper to add more information. I wanted to make sure that whoever was reading about me and my family and my other 2 puppies fully understood my love of dogs. I was in love, and I knew that I could give this little baby that had been so badly abused a life she so deserved. I remember Grant always asking me, do you really think you're going to get that dog? She's got like over 14,000 Facebook fans. And I said, yes. I prayed, and in February I got a call asking if I still wanted to adopt Xena. You could have knocked me over with a feather. So Xena the warrior puppy came to us on February 11th of this year for a home trial visit. Foster mom Chrissy let Xena spend the night, and I was like a little girl at Christmas. I was so excited to have this fur baby in our home, a little girl who I'd been following and loving every day over the internet. I put Xena in the car to pick up Johnny from school. When they met, they were so excited. Xena smothering Johnny with kisses and Johnny smiling from ear to ear. Johnny was nonstop chatter, talking to her, telling her she has a nose, 2 eyes, she's got 4 legs, she had a boo-boo on her nose, and he wanted to give her a Band-Aid. Zena hopped into Johnny's lap that day, and she has been there ever since. I took over Xena's Facebook page the first day we had her, and I started posting pictures of Xena. And every time I took a picture of Xena, Johnny was in it. They were inseparable. I introduced Johnny to Xena Nation of 14,000, but because Xena was just with us on trial and she was not our dog, I kept our autism a secret. Every picture I posted, I checked for any signs of anything. I just wasn't ready to tell 14,000 people my son has autism, and I certainly wasn't ready to answer any questions. And I had to make sure that we as a family were all okay with the decision to open up to the world. Christian, our 16-year-old, had some reservations. He never denied that his little brother has autism, but to actually share it with the world was a whole lot different. We as a family talked it through and realized that Adoption Day would be the best time to share Johnny's autism with Xena Nation. Between February 11th and March 25th, which was Adoption Day, Xena Nation fell in love with Johnny. They were not aware of his autism. They loved him for who he truly is. They asked for him when he wasn't pictured. They wished him well when he was under the weather. They loved his style, and they loved him without judgment. Grant and I have experienced so much judgment in the last 8 years. We have gotten the looks and the remarks and the comments from people who feel we have an unruly child, that our parenting skills are poor, that we basically have a brat. But this was such an eye-opening moment for me, that thousands of people love Johnny for Johnny, and that he is not defined by his autism, but that he is a kind, sweet, loving boy. And this is what Xena Nation saw. I remember coming home from school with Johnny and Xena on that very first day. We were all in the family room. Johnny was laughing and talking and singing, and I remember just standing back from it all and just watching the interaction and thinking to myself, I have spent thousands of dollars on therapy, and there stands that 4-legged puppy in my family room, the best therapy money could buy. Xena has brought out something in Johnny that no teacher, no therapist, parent, sibling, or friend has been able to do. He talks to her constantly, he sings to her, he plays with her, and she loves him unconditionally. She doesn't see any social awkwardness, and she embraces everything Johnny. I hear laughter in my home where there used to be silence, and I hear Johnny yelling at her when she steals a toy. I see smiles and interaction. Johnny allows no one in her home. He can't handle it, and he becomes completely overwhelmed if someone is even on our property. I find it amazing that we can't have anyone over, but yet 35,000 people are in my home every single day. It doesn't shock me at all that Johnny, who doesn't seem to do anything typical, would find an unconventional way of having guests over. I see so many positive changes in Johnny that in my heart I know can only be explained because of one special warrior puppy. When Xena's Facebook page was first started, it was originally all animal lovers hoping and praying for a little puppy to survive. We now have families who are following for inspiration and hope because autism has affected their lives. I have received many messages of thanks. Thanks for shining a light on autism in countries that just didn't speak of it. I have families asking me for advice, for motivation and guidance. I have moms messaging me that when they just can't anymore, they come to Zena's page for inspiration and strength so they can make it through the rest of their day. Johnny and Zena now have over 35,000 Facebook friends and have reached the hearts in 89 countries, provinces, and territories. They send a message of hope, the very hope that we had from the beginning of this journey. Together, Johnny and Zena are spreading the words, which has been their mission statement since Johnny used those exact words in a video he made last April about Autism Awareness Month and Prevention of Cruelty to Animals Month. Another remarkable piece to this story, they both share the month of April. So these two are spreading the words of kindness and not to judge others for any reason. A puppy who was first reported to be a Labrador mixed was loved by the world, turned out to be a beautiful Staffordshire Bull Terrier mix, better known as the Pit Bull. A misunderstood breed in this world is changing opinions and hearts every single day. And Johnny, a little boy with autism, who is also so misunderstood in this world, together with his puppy are spreading autism awareness all around the world. Is it an accident that these two end up together as best friends? I think God has brought them together to spread the words far and wide, to be kind to all, and to love unconditionally. Johnny and Zena are showing the world how great they truly are, and that being unique is perfect. Johnny and Zena's story is so heartwarming and inspirational with so many facets to their story that people want to hear their message and share their message, that in life there can be struggles and heartache, but with hope and love, all can be conquered. So I stand here today, a mom who only a few years ago could not bear to speak the word autism, and I certainly could not say my son has autism. And now I'm standing in front of the world saying that my son Johnny has autism. A mom who was broken, who felt completely alone and lost, who thought our life as a family was going to change and not for the better, and how my hopes and dreams for my son were gone. And now I have the opportunity to help others who may be the mom I was just a short time ago. How I wished I had a Xena page back then to turn to see what autism could be, and to see that all the hopes and dreams that I thought were gone are still there, but that we are just taking a different path to get there. It may be a more difficult one. The path may have a lot more bumps in the road, but we will still get there. That yes, my life will change, but change for the better. That through autism, I see the beauty in life every single day where I took it all for granted before. I appreciate the good days so much more. I love deeper. I believe stronger. Do we have bad days? Absolutely. Do we have issues that we're working on? Most definitely. Zena has done so much for us all, really. Yes, she has been Johnny's savior, but she has done so much for me as well. I prayed for peace, and I think she has brought me just that. I no longer obsess about schoolwork. I'm not up all night long trying to figure out how to teach Johnny. We still do homework every day, but it's Johnny's homework from school. I prayed for Johnny to be happy, and Zena has brought that to him. And at the end of the day, that is what I want for my son, to be happy. So we put away the school books after school, and Johnny enjoys playtime with his best friend, and he is happy. My life has come full circle in 8 years. I'm no longer angry with God. And every last prayer is being answered, and I believe God has brought us everything we needed to manage our life with autism. We may have to look a little deeper in how our prayers are being answered. They may not be coming to us exactly how we had envisioned. I never imagined in my wildest dreams that my prayers would be answered with a dog. But as we all know, dog, spelled backwards, is God. Thank you. God bless.
Thank you.
I made it.
Woo! How do you follow that?
You know,
I'll tell you what.
Amen, go.
I mean, the mascara is running all over the face. Thank you so much, both of you, for sharing that. This is why we're here. This is why we're here, is to help and support families like this. And this is a great way to start our new year. Now, Zena can't stand it. She's got to be next to her mom. Lynn's not here, but Robin? Yes.
Oh, I'm supposed to speak.